Okay, so we want to write a module that gets two user input XY points, then finds and outputs the distance between them. We're going to use a complete sentence in the output referencing both the points and the result. We can recall the distance formula between 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2 is given by the formula D is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. I'm going to start by opening a new file. And we'll call it distance between points. And I'll put my headers in with my name. You would use your name. The date. I'll skip the date because it's will last forever. And a description of what the program does. And this description can be thought of as the analyze step. This module does what? We're going to say this module gets two user input points and let's just say outputs the distance between them. Then we're going to define main. And down below here, oh, we need a colon there. I knew that because I didn't indent. And then somewhere down below, we'll invoke main. Okay. So the comment describing the program is our analyze step. You get two user input points and output the distance between them. I want to jump over to the paper here and look at, I need to move that out of the way. My second step, which is specifications. So when we look at our specifications, we're going to look at maybe our specs kind of slash in conjunction with a little bit of our design, because I want to look at how am I getting this input? Well, I'm going to get the first point, x1, y1, and I'm going to get that from the user as simultaneous assignment. So I'm going to just use an eval and an input with a prompt. And then same thing for x2, y2. It's going to be the same thing. So when I say I'm kind of combining this with step 3, the design, here I'm pseudocoding. It's almost code actually, but just kind of make it clear that we're using an input statement, and because they're numbers, we're going to eval them. Okay, and then part of the specifications or the design is what's the process, and here is the formula that we're given above there. So the distance is going to be the square root of, well, it's x2 minus x1, and then, since I'm in Python, we'll square it that way with the exponents, 2 plus, and then it's y2 minus y1. Again, that's squared. If I'm going to use the square root, I'm going to need to import that guy or import math. And then the output is just going to be a print statement. And I want to print the points and the distance between them. So in a sense, I did both my specifications and my design at the same time, because the design is sort of the input process and output, but in that stage, I'm also identifying what am I going to call the variables x1, x2, d. I might, to make my life a little easier, I might think about these points as being like P1 and P2. I might define those first and then print them out. So maybe I'll have variables P1 and P2 that are just the string version of those points. Okay, we'll switch back over to Python. I think I can don't really need that anymore, so I'm just going to minimize it down. And we'll bring this over here, maybe make it a little bigger. Okay, so in main, since I'm going to use the same prompts twice, I'll set up a prompt that says enter a point, enter the coordinates of a point, x comma y, and I'll put in parentheses, comma, separated. I'll turn this light off so I can see a little better. And then we'll start off with our input here. X1, comma, Y1 using simultaneous assignment is equal to eval input. And now I can just type the prompt in here. I didn't close that parenthesis. So that will get the first point. And then I'm going to do, oh, you know what? I think in this prompt, I also want like a colon and a space. And then I'm going to do below it, x2, y2 is eval input, and it's the same prompt. That's the advantage of using that prompt. I don't have to retype that. Okay, and for my process, I'm going to use the distance formula, and maybe I'll just use d equals. So I haven't imported anything yet. So I'm going to go back up above main, and I'm going to say from math, since all I need is the square root, I'm just going to say import sqrt. From math, import square root. And then down here, I can say sqrt. It's going to be, I'm going to use a double parenthesis, x2 minus x1 squared plus parenthesis y2 minus y1 squared. And just to check this, let's print d. Make sure it's working. So we're going to run it. I'm going to have to save it, but let me run it first. I'm calling this distance between points. I'm going to save it to my 110 folder on my desktop. And I don't have a coding folder here, so I'm just going to save it to my desktop for now as distance between points, and we'll append it with the .py. Doesn't like that parenthesis there. I don't need it. Typo. Try it again. Enter the coordinates. I'm going to go 5, 0, and 10, 0, just so I know how far apart these points are. And they're 5 units apart. So that computation looks like it's working. We could do like the corners of a 3, 4, 5 triangle to check it again. So let's see, 3, 4, 5. So we'll go 0, 0 as 1 point. And then 3 and 4 as another point. And that'll be over 3 and up 4. And so the distance between them should be 5. It is. Okay. So I needed a little math to test that. We could also just write it down and look at the distances, compute them ourselves. So my program is working, but I don't have the output in the format that I want. If we go back to the original assignment, it says, use a complete sentence referencing both points and the result for your output. So rather than print D here, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to say P1 is equal to, quote, let's see what happens if I just do this. Quote, open parenthesis, x1, comma, no, that's not right. Parenthesis, x1, comma, y1. And if I print P1, I want to see what that looks like. Let's go with 5, 9 and 0, 2 as my points. And it did print this as a point, 5, 9 with the parentheses and the space between them. So that's what I wanted to do. And I want to to find P2 to equal the point x2 comma y2. And this is just going to make my print statement a little easier. And notice that Python, it created them as a string here. So it's nice because I can now just print my output, print statement that says the distance between the points. And now here's where it's useful. I can just say P1 and P2 is D. And I should put all that in quotes. And then I want to modify the end statement to equal a period \n. And I'm going to run this, and then I'm going to modify it a little bit to make it look better. So we're going to go 5, 10, and we'll go 6 and 18. And the distance between them is not D. The distance between them is something else. So I need to end my quote here. And then D there. D is a variable. So I don't want it inside the quotes. Oh, let's see what it did with my points here. It also put P1 and P2 in there, which is not what I wanted. So I think I can sneak in here and just go x1, comma x, y1. That's not going to work. I need to go P1 here, comma, and then put the ampersand in quotes, and comma. There we go. So P1 is not in the quotes, P2 is not in the quotes, and then those are all separated by a space, is D, there's my end. Let's run it, see if it works. I need a comma in there. The syntax errors will generally tell you what your error is or about where it is. Not sure. Oh, I need a comma after that P2. So there it was, the error message was after the is, but it was really missing a comma after P2. Run it again. Okay, we'll go back to 510. And 618. I don't know the distance between these 2 points, but I'm going to see that if my output looks right, the distance between that's listed as a point and that's listed as a point is that guy. And then I'd really like to round that answer maybe to 2 or 1 decimal place. So I can do the rounding here in the print statement. If I don't need to keep the D, I could say like D equals round D to 2 decimal places. Usually you don't want to modify the exact value, so I might change this to result. Is the D rounded to 2 decimal places? And I'd come here and I'd put this as my result. I also, this P1 and P2, it's not, I don't know that it's part of our process. We're really using it for our output. So maybe I'd move that down here. There'd be other ways to do this. One way would be just to add the things in. I'm going to run it one more time. Make sure it's working. Instead of using the print statement with the separator, let's go with the point 111 and let's go to 115, and that should have a distance of 4. Distance between 111 and 115 is 4. Okay, so that does it. I'll leave the code here if you want to pause and get that typed in. Another option you could do is a similar version, but instead of finding the distance between the 2 points, you could find the midpoint between the 2 points. All right, and I'd say let's try that on your own.